Here is your new ID card. No big deal, right? But now imagine you will need that card in order to work, to travel, to get a credit card, or to even buy groceries. Did you realize that the latest DMV trip would matter that much?
The federal government is developing vast databases of information about all Americans, and state departments of motor vehicles are knitting together all the pieces of a national ID system. Programs like the Real ID Act, which is a national ID, and the E-Verify program, which requires one, are moving this process forward quickly.
There are a number of problems with a national ID. First is just the outright surveillance of citizens.
If the E-Verify program goes national, all employers will have to get a permission slip to hire new employees.
It then becomes a tool for social control, a way to limit my ability to travel, limit my ability to work, or limit my ability to do anything that requires a national ID.
A national ID system has three parts. That is, that it's national, that it's for identification, and that it's practically or legally required.
A lot of people say, well, I put information up on Facebook or I share it with lots of people through social networks. How is this any different?
If you don't like Facebook's privacy settings, you can refuse to use Facebook.
You can't do that with the government. They decide what your information they want to collect and what they want to do with it. There's no opt-out.
The Real ID Act created new standards for state-issued driver's licenses, such as requiring people to submit more personal documentation.
And in some cases, you need multiple forms of identification. So this is really a bureaucratic nightmare.
The law also mandates that all compliant state-issued ID cards have a unique machine-readable barcode on the back of each card.
The barcodes you're starting to see on driver's licenses are a lot like the barcodes you see in the supermarket on cans of peaches. They're there to automatically convey information, but this time it's not about cans of fruit, it's about you.
And the government uses the barcode and the information stored in the barcode really to track people and to store information.
So when you buy something and they want to look at your driver's license or scan it, when you travel and TSA wants to look at that or scan your barcode, what they've essentially done is created a record that you as an individual have been in a particular place or purchased particular things.
E-Verify is a system that allows employers to check with the federal government whether their potential workers have a Social Security number that lines up with the databases in the Social Security Administration and the Department of Homeland Security.
The essential problem with E-Verify is it amounts to a right to work list. You've got to get permission from the federal government in order to work. Now that may not seem like a big deal, but imagine if your name or personal information is wrong in the government's database. You've got to fix it before you can start a new job. Imagine if you're somebody the government doesn't like. We already have a no-fly list of people who aren't allowed to get on airplanes in this country, even though they haven't done anything wrong.
Once a national ID is in place, it can be repurposed for just about any use. The system created for immigration control can be used for gun control. It can be used for controlling your access to financial services, to housing, and travel.
The idea of a national ID card isn't a new one. People have been worried about identity systems for a long time.
President Reagan offered to have this national ID card, and one of his cabinet members said, why don't we just tattoo a number on everyone's arm? And Reagan dropped it immediately.
When President Bill Clinton talked about his ill-fated health care reform law, he rejected any national ID card as part of health care reform, saying it smacked of creeping big brotherism. So this isn't a partisan issue.
A national ID is about more than just potential oppression. When we carry a national ID card and it's used to collect information about our comings and goings, about our purchases and our communications, that information comes to rest in data warehouses held by governments and corporations, positioning them to affect our lives more directly and more intimately than they could otherwise. This is why it's important to resist having a national ID. It's a way of maintaining not only privacy, but personal power.